Welcome. This is Glasgow Rangers Nation. Hi, I'm Aaron James, and this is all your latest Rangers news. Guys, I've got to say, I've watched it 3 times now. I've watched the press conference 3 times. And you know what? It brought back Neil Banfield vibes for me. Don't know if any of you remember Neil Banfield, Michael Beale's assistant, giving that press conference that was just a car crash from beginning to end. You know what? What's it they call it? Rubbernecking, when you just keep looking and keep looking back and slow down to look, and you shouldn't be looking or watching, but you are. They talk about films, don't they? Been car crash TV. It's so bad, it's just you have to watch it. I've got to say, I watched that interview and I've watched that press conference now, like I said, 3 times at least, and I have to say, I utterly despair that this man is our interim chairman, that he's having any influence or say over what is happening at this club. I don't solely blame John Gilligan. I think he's a nice man. I think he's a very nice, very honest, very kindly old man that should have retired a long time ago and shouldn't be doing what he's doing and shouldn't have been put in a position by our board to do what he's having to do. I blame the board. I solely blame the board. I think there's one thing that is very self-evident, and I want to talk through some of the key points of it in a minute, and just to show what an absolute car crash this was from beginning to end. I know some people won't agree with me and will think this was a great interview, and it was we should be getting behind the board and we should be getting behind John Gilligan and we should be sitting there going, yay! No, I don't accept mediocrity. I don't accept second best, and I will not accept being run by a bunch of incompetent people who cannot run a bat, let alone a football club. The one thing that came through for me today in this presser, in this interview, is that this man, this kindly old man that looks like someone's grandpa, who probably is sat there trying to figure out what his name is, why he's there, and where the TV remote is, and why it's on so loud. I think, yes, he's a fan. He's clearly a Rangers fan, and lovely, wonderful, fantastic, just amazing. Well done. But that's not a qualification to become chairman, is it? Really? Just because you're a Rangers fan, I know a lot of Rangers fans, and there's a lot of guys and girls that I know that are Rangers fans that I love to bits, but I wouldn't want them as chairman of the football club. No offense, guys, but look, he's an apologist. He is a yes man. He's a stooge. He is there basically as a puppet for Douglas Park, a puppet for that disgusting Graham Park. He is an absolute puppet for this present incompetent bunch that run this football club. Talking about Dave King, wishing Dave King would shut up and go away, basically. Well, he's not going to shut up and go away because he owns 15% of the club and he has a say in what goes on at this club. And I think he said that Dave wishes Dave King would be quiet and stop talking and stop saying what he's saying. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Gilligan, and I'm sure you're not actually speaking from yourself. You're actually speaking solely from the fact of the Park family, who, like I've said on a number of occasions, the Park family are a virus that has infected this club and are making this club ill, and they're making this club worse and worse. And until this family are gone from this football club, until we put sufficient pressure on this family to get rid of them, this club will not move forward. I mean, let's pick up some points, from this interview today, from this presser today, and talk through some of these key points, guys. I've sat through it, I've gone through it, and he talked about, the timeline. And he said, that he's not here for the long term. He's here as an interim. Well, okay, fair enough. He says a few months, but we know what that means. In Rangers terms, we've heard this before. We've heard, imminent appointment of a CEO. 9-10 weeks later, still nothing. We're a few months down the line. We'll have a CEO in place. We're interviewing people. We have a short list. We have a plan in place. Well, can anyone tell me why it's taken 108 days to draw up a plan, 108 days to get to a point where we may have someone appointed within the next couple of weeks, month or so? Why is it taken so long? How is that a plan? How is that an effective running of the club? And it seems that in the interview, the overwhelming one of the things that comes through in the interview is that Hampden is to blame for everything, that we were distracted by Hampden Park. Well, can we only focus on that then? Are we only able to focus on the one thing, that we can't play at Ibrox because we've got to go and play at Hampden Park? So therefore, we can't think about a CEO. We can't think about a rebuild and buying players. We can't think about the club. We can't think about appointing a proper chairman. We can't think about appointing a sporting director. We can't think about appointing a director of academy because we've got to go and play at Hampden and it's just causing too much chaos and stress. I mean, honestly, genuinely, how has it taken 108 days since James Bisgrove left to get to a position where we still have now maybe got a short list of 4, 5, 6 names for a job that someone may have been offered the job in the past, Gillespie, who was a joke, and that was then he turned us down, apparently, allegedly, and now we're in a position where we may have got a short list because of recruitment consultancy who probably know about, about that much about football, have drawn up a short list of people who could be suitable. 108 days. I mean, does that smack of competence? Does that smack of effective leadership? Does that smack of anything about a direction for the board, a direction for the club, and a direction for us as a fan base? No, it doesn't. It doesn't say any of that. I work a lot. If anyone goes, well, what do you know? I work in business. I work in the retail industry. I'm a manager. I run departments. I manage teams of people. I've taken part and I recruit people. I have a knowledge of recruitment. I have a knowledge of shortlisting. I have a knowledge of interview processes. I have a knowledge of managing budgets. Not as big as Rangers budget, granted. I have a knowledge of managing wage budgets, and I have a knowledge of what it takes to run a business. But if I was tasked with recruiting people for my team, and I took 108 days to find people to work in my team or to be my deputy or whatever, I'd be sacked for incompetence. I genuinely would. And the place that I work in would probably be in chaos, and I'd probably be trying to do that job by myself. It smacks of absolute incompetence. And to talk about, the fact that we were distracted by Hampden, and it seems that Hampden is to blame for all of this, is just ludicrous. And that was in response to about, is there a plan? No, well, obviously isn't a plan, because that's what your answer is to that. I mean, genuinely clueless. He was talking about, he was asked about the decisions as well. I mean, David Edgar was the one that asked the questions about, is there a recognition now from the board that there's been bad decisions made? And this was his answer to that. He said, decisions are made, good and bad. Lots of great things have happened in the last 3 years. Okay, right. Okay. Lots of great things have happened in the last 3 years. Like what? Okay. So let's just have a little think about that. So we appointed Michael Beale. No, not a great thing. We had Gio, we sacked him. Great thing. No. What else happened in that time? Celtic have won a number of doubles and a number of trebles in that time. Is that a good thing? No. We've won 3 trophies since 2012 to 20. Is that a great thing? No. We haven't been able to appoint a CEO. Is that a good thing? No. We've gone through a series of managers. We've wasted a lot of money. We've allowed a lot of valuable assets in terms of playing staff to leave for nothing. Yeah, there's the list. Come on, John. The list of great things is just building here, isn't it? It really genuinely is building. It's just getting better and better and better, isn't it? What else? What else is great that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years? Okay, we won the Scottish Cup in 21-20. There we go. There's a great thing. We won the Scottish Cup. One Scottish Cup. The time that Celtic have won a lot more than we have. Okay. We won the league in 2020, 2021. I suppose you can include that, going unbeaten. But then, yes, that was great, unbelievably great, fantastic, amazing, undefeated, brilliant. But then we didn't capitalize on that. We didn't build from that. We didn't take that as an opportunity to accelerate, an opportunity to get back into a dominant position, an opportunity to be where Celtic are now in terms of finances, dominating, winning trophies. And why didn't we do that? Because the board didn't invest in the team, because the board didn't back the manager, because the board made a whole series of very bad decisions. So I'm sorry, John Gilligan. A lot of great things have happened in the last year. I wouldn't say 1 league title, 1 Scottish Cup, and a losing appearance in a Europa League final is a lot of great things, my friend. If that's your definition of a lot of great things for our football club, then you really haven't got a Scooby-Doo. You know, you haven't got a Scooby-Doo. In the words of Scooby, or whatever he does, that noise, I can't do it. I'd rather trust Shaggy to run the football club, if I'm being wholly honest on that one. I don't know. He was obviously asked about the Dave King thing, you know, about Dave King returning to... about Dave King returning, John Gilligan taking over the programme and getting rid of me. About Dave King returning as chairman, he said that was highly unrealistic, as Dave knows how shareholding works. Dave is a major shareholder, yes, and he can say what he wants, but then obviously went against that later in the interview. He has a 15% shareholder, but it's unrealistic because our board are comprised of people who own 10%, 12%, 13%, and so on and so forth. So it's very unrealistic that Dave King will return. Well, that's not the real reason that Dave King won't return, is it, Mr. Gilligan? The real reason that Dave King can't return or won't return as chairman is because Douglas Park hates him. And Douglas Park, who is another major shareholder in the football club, would rather see the club die or the club struggle than actually get Dave King back to do anything to help the club. I mean, that's wholly honest. He was asked about the EGM. This is what he said, and I think this is just that statement, that second statement, is the one that just scares the shit out of me 1,000,000%. He says an EGM is called by people who want change. This board don't want change. Let's just let that sink in for a minute. This board don't want change. Can you just think about that for a minute? The board don't want change. Well, of course they don't want change, because they don't want to lose their jobs as chairman, because they are as directors, because they like the Blazers, they like being Rangers directors, they like lining their own pockets with Rangers money and Rangers fans money, and they're not interested in the club, and they're not interested in developing the club, and they're not interested in taking the club forward, and they're quite happy sitting there finishing second to Celtic season after season, as long as they get a bit of money into their pockets and they line their pockets and they get to sit in their nice comfortable seats on a match day. They don't want to see this club move forward. They don't want this club to progress. They don't want this club to be successful. All they want is to line their own pockets and to, you know, get free advertising in the case of the Park family. This board don't want change. I think that is the biggest condemnation to come out of this interview, this car crash of a press conference. I really hope that it's John Gilligan doesn't ever speak to the media again, because the guy's an embarrassment. You know, like I said, I think he's a nice guy, lovely guy. Sure, he's lovely to speak to one-to-one, but when it comes to being a chairman, he's just absolutely useless. But yeah, the board don't want change. I think that is the biggest, most telling statement that came out of it today. The board don't want change. Well, of course they don't want change. Of course they don't want anything to progress, to move forward. They just want to keep running the same shit show they've been running for the last 3 years, because it works for them. Second place works for them. They still get money from the Europa League. They still get money from the competitions. They sell players. They cream some of that off. They still sell merchandise. They cream some of that off, because Rangers fans are loyal to the club. They'll always buy the merchandise. Apparently fresh investment is welcomed. Dave King doesn't want to invest, but that's not what he said. Dave King said that he had other people who were interested in investing. So I think Mr. Gilligan is being a bit false with what he's saying there. He says that you know, there is people who are interested in investing. Well, who are they? You know, and what is the point of having investment into this club if you've got the same board running the show, the same shit show with the same bunch of morons who can't run a bath? So for me, it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless unless these new investors get control of the football club. And I mean over 50% control of the football club, so they take the decisions, because the present board with Douglas Park, Graham Park, I mean, just those two make me want to throw up, just genuinely cannot run anything. I mean, honestly, this was the thing that came out of that. They don't want one person to own the club. Why not? Why not? What would happen if someone who is genuinely interested in running the football club, who is genuinely interested in investing money in the football club, who is genuinely interested in being the person who owns the club lock, stock and barrel, wants to come in, wants to put money into the club, has a business plan, yes, I know this is all pie in the sky, but you know, they're coming out and they're saying they don't want one person to own the club. They're ruling out. They're saying no to it. So what happens though if someone does come in who has an interest in the football club, who wants to run the club for the interests of the fans, wants to run the club to have success, But they don't want that. No, one person cannot own the football club. Well, what do we do then? We turn that down. We say no to that person because this present board don't want it. The present board that have already solely proved on a number of occasions, Ibrox, the rebuild of the team, Edmiston House overspend, the sports bar overspend, the repeated sacking of managers and the compensation packages that have been paid, the signing off on contracts, ridiculously big contracts, the allowing players to leave for absolutely nothing, the wasting of a large sum of money on players who are not good enough. I mean, the list just goes on and on of the incompetent decisions they've made. But apparently they've made some great decisions. I genuinely don't get it. And I just think that this is, again, another example of our board holding this club back. They genuinely are destroying this football club. They are taking it back and destroying it. And I honestly get the feeling with Douglas Park, with Graham Park, they'd rather see the club go out of business than Dave King have any involvement again in this club. They genuinely would rather see our club go into liquidation again because they are that selfish. They are that pig-headed, that stupid. And like I've said a number of occasions, Douglas Park, Graham Park, come on the podcast, debate me. But you wouldn't have the nerve to do it. You wouldn't have the courage to do it because you know I'm right and you're wrong. He was asked about club in crisis. And I think, again, he just showed how out of touch he is and how out of touch the board are. Because let's remember that what John Gilligan is a yes man for Rangers Football Club's board. What is not good? What is going wrong? I mean, genuinely, honestly, I mean, to be honest with you, he reminds me of someone I used to work with who we used to turn to him and say, whatever you're going to say, you need to write it down and give it to us, and we'll look at it and say, yes, you can say that, or no, you can't say that. And honestly, this statement here, when he was asked about the club being in crisis, and the David King situation about talking about the club being in crisis, and him to say what's not good, what's going wrong. Now, if he'd written that down and given it to someone with who's got a bit of sense, who's not a yes man for the Rangers board, they'd have said, no, don't say that. Genuinely, please don't say that. That's just ridiculous. What is not good? Okay, there's a list. That lot across the city winning multiple doubles, multiple trebles, multiple trophies since 2012. Contracts winding down and players being allowed to leave for nothing. Managers been repeatedly sacked in huge compensation packages, things. Overspends on stadium developments, on conference developments. Poor decisions made on sponsorship deals. Poor decisions made on managers. Failure to capitalise on 55. Failure to rebuild the team correctly. Failure to back the manager. Failure to appoint people to key positions in good time. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And for him to sit there and say what is not good, what is going wrong, just really does show that he is absolutely, well, like I said, I don't think it's John Gilligan. I think it's the Rangers board. He's a yes man. He's a yes man. I mean, it's almost, I wouldn't be surprised if Graham Park or Douglas Park wasn't sat behind him with their hand up his arse, moving his mouth and doing a ventriloquist act. I really wouldn't. And what's the plan to catch up with Celtic? Well, we'll keep chasing and we'll get there. Okay, well, that's a great plan. That's a great plan. I mean, I'm sure that's Aberdeen's plan, Hearts' plan, Hibs' plan. Let's just keep going. We'll get there in the end. Well, not always. You know what? I'll tell you something. Mo Farah, great distance runner, right? If my plan to catch Mo Farah was for me just to keep running and eventually I might catch up with him, that's not a good plan because I just wouldn't do it. But in terms of catching with them financially, the sole plan is player trading and Champions League. That will solve everything. Will it? Will it really? Will it genuinely? I'm sorry, John Gilligan. It won't. It genuinely won't. I've watched, like I said, I've watched this interview with this lovely old man 2 or 3 times now, and I've watched the press conference 3 times, and I just despair. I genuinely sit there and despair that this club is just being led by absolute idiots. There was a saying, after the Battle of the Somme, that it was lions led by donkeys. Lions led by donkeys. Well, if we use that same analogy, Rangers fans, Rangers players, Rangers team are the lions, the board are the donkeys. We are effectively lions led by absolute donkeys, absolute swamp donkeys, clueless donkeys, donkeys that just stay in the swamp and not come out of the swamp. I'm sorry, but this interview gives me absolutely no hope in terms of this club moving forward for the future. The only way to get progress for this club, to move Rangers forward, to get them back to where we as fans, and I'm talking about real fans here, want this club to be, which is back at the top of the Scottish game, competing in Europe, winning doubles, winning trebles, putting that lot across the city back in their box, is by getting rid of this whole sorry lot, starting with the Park family. And look, I would urge you, to help out. Don't buy a car from them. Don't have anything to do with the Park family. Boycott their businesses. Protest against them. Do whatever you can to get rid of the Park family and the rest of this board. That's the only way forward. That is the only way this club is going to actually change. And I don't want to get into politics, but to use a Donald Trump saying, we need to drain the swamp. We need a lot of swamp draining at Ibrox and a lot of swamp draining on the board. Guys, let me know your thoughts, your feelings. I'm in despair with this lot. And like I said, that press conference was a car crash with Neil Banfield vibes from beginning to end. Thanks for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. Please obviously smash that like. Drop me a comment. Argue if you want. Do whatever you want. Go for it. Subscribe. Help the channel to keep on growing, guys. This is the future. Thank you for watching. We are the people.